have my doubts whether this will really resolve the plight of the low-skilled. Because what we see in the statistics across Europe is that what is really important to get out of poverty is to have at least 1.5 income per family. And you can think about ways to reach that. Let's say you raise the minimum wage, and then with your indexation clauses, the way benefits are linked, then you would sort of maybe achieve that. But then you fall back into this poverty trap that at some point it's just not worthwhile to enter the labor market. So here I really think that some of the distributive aspects of the welfare state have to be supplied by services in education, in childcare, by really targeting these work poor families in helping to raise their children. So I know there's a whole debate across Europe trying to sort of to go back to the traditional welfare system, the social to create more space for social protection per se. And given the social dynamics of our societies, I have some doubt about that. And above and beyond, of course, that if we're with aging, prices of labor will inevitably go up, but they will also be quite skewed. So although the wage share will grow up, I mean, the distribution within that wage share, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen next. So we really need some really hard thinking on this, the level of transfers and in-kind benefits in the near future. I mean, in terms of growth, going back to the period before the onslaught of the crisis, the growth that we had was very job intensive, and was most job intensive in those countries that have somehow shifted to services, including the kinds of services that a private sector needs from the public. Education and childcare and those kind of things. So in that sense, I think Germany would be in a much better position with higher growth rates if it would have allowed the service sector, both public and private, to grow. I mean, within the coalition of the German economy, this was not done. It was, we need heavy industry, and in order to be competitive, and this is not per se true, we need to constrain services, because services, if they start to become more expensive, then they are a drag on the economy. And I think that this may not be true. Now, I have to bring in a caveat here in terms of job-intensive growth, because we're now having a crisis which is a demand crisis, not a supply crisis. And this makes me uncomfortable, because I mean, the social investment strategy is, like neoliberalism, is a bit like a supply side solution. I mean, perhaps a nicer one, but we're facing a demand problem. But I do think that you can have some kind of reconciliation between demand and supply within a social investment framework. And yeah, but it's difficult to turn the tables, but there's some positive sparks. And then, in order to maintain the kind of welfare states that we have, I think between 2% and 3% is sufficient to do it. And also, when you look at the way we've changed, and whether we like it or not, the intergenerational contract through pension policy, higher exit ages, people my age are much better educated than 10 years ago. I think there's quite some room for maneuver, as I was already intimated in the previous session. In a way, we will have somehow a referendum. It's going to be a messy one in May, which is about Europe, it's the European Parliament elections. And this is very serious because, I mean, in my presentation and my sort of view on the future, I mean, it has a rosy side, but it also has this sort of Weimar Republic side to it as well, that, you know, accidents can happen because it's very fragile. And the thing is that the EU as an institution cannot survive a lost decade that many people write about in the newspapers today, a lost decade like Japan. I mean, for two reasons. One is that Japan had, you know, quasi full employment over that period, and, you know, we have not. I mean, that's a euphemism. And the other thing is that Japan continued to be a country, like Switzerland, and the EU is not a country. It's a quasi-polity with some elements of democratic representation, and so I mean, what somebody else said. I mean, isn't it time we start to think about more creative solutions, how to tackle unemployment? And here there's a lot of credit claiming for the EU to get into. And as I've shown, you know, there's a mild change in perspective going on within countries and at the level of the EU. And so my bet, I don't know what to do exactly, but my bet is to work through these institutions.